Hi, algebra kiddos. So unfortunately today I had to be gone, but you are going to watch a video on your Schoology, which you should have right now, and we are going to go through and we're going to work with two-step equations. So first off, you should have this warm-up written on your, or this problem written on your warm-up sheet. And your warm-up sheet looks like this. It's warm-up number 4. We located it in Schoology. And so you should have your answer right now. So we're just going to check real quickly to make sure that you did it correctly. So remember, it's keep, change, flip. So in order to solve this, I keep my 3/8, multiply it by 2 over 1. So that gives me 6/8. But they're both even, so I can actually divide by 2, and my final answer is 3/4. So if you did something wrong, what I would do right now is I'd pause this video, go back to your Notability, and make sure that you have that piece right. So make sure that you have a note sheet from the substitute. If you don't, go and grab one. If you do, we're going to go through and we're going to solve these problems together. As we're working through this video, you are to pause at any point if you need to, in order to make sure that 1, you're understanding it, 2, you are keeping notes with this, and 3, you can pause and rewind if you need to review something. So make sure that you're filling out your essential question. How do I solve for the unknown? And this unknown piece is going to be your variable, which is mainly going to be your x value. And the steps that we go through are determining what variable you're solving for. Again, most times it's going to be the value of x. Work with the constant, which is the number that you are adding or subtracting. And then you're going to isolate the variable by doing inverse operations, which in this turn is going to be that multiplying or dividing piece. Once you have all this written down, we're going to go through the next. So if you need to pause, go ahead. Otherwise, I'm going to move on. All right, so in example 1, we're going to solve for x. So for letter A, everything is positive, but in letter B, you're going to notice that there's a negative piece. So they're going to be very similar in how we work things, but one is going to be working with some negatives and the other one isn't. So focusing on A, first step, draw that line so you have your balancing piece. And I'm going to start with my constant, which is that adding of 6. So right now I'm just going to ignore the x. Now I boxed this adding 6. It's a positive. And my inverse operation to that is going to be the negative or subtracting 6. And what I do to the left, I do to the right. And the goal is I'm canceling them out. Well, 6 take away 6 is 0, so I cancel them out. I bring down the 4x. And then 30 take away 6 is 24. Again, if I am going too fast, pause as you go through. Or something I know that helps some students is watch me work through it, pause it, write everything down. Now, sorry. Right now, I have 4x, and that means I'm multiplying. So the inverse of multiply is divide. So I'm going to divide both sides by 4. 4 divided by 4 just leaves me with x. And 24 divided by 4 is 6. Now to ensure that I actually did this correctly, we are going to check our answer. So where you see the x at the top, you're going to substitute in for 6 and then just make sure that it's right. So 4 times 6 plus 6. We want to know, does that equal the 30? So order of operations means I multiply first. 4 times 6 is 24, and 24 plus 6 is in fact 30. Well, does this equal our original amount of 30? It does. So we have it correct. All right, so let's work through this second problem. Again, start with that line. Now, my constant is 6. And because it's positive, it means that I'm adding 6 to the 8x. So opposite of adding, again, is subtracting. So I'm going to take away 6 from both sides. Now, subtracting 8x means I'm left with a negative 8x. Sorry, videotaping. And 22 minus 6 gives me 16. Now, the same as what we did with letter A, we are multiplying by negative 8. So I'm going to divide by negative 8, divide by negative 8, and this cancels, and x equals negative 2. Now again, something that is going to make us better mathematicians is to go through and make sure that we have it right by checking. So where I see the x, I'm going to replace it with negative 2. 6 minus 8 times negative 2. 6 minus, well, 8 times negative 2 is negative 16. I have two negatives, which means I'm really adding. So 6 plus 16 equals 22. Does this number match that number? It does, so we have it correct. So again, go through and pause. Make sure that you have this written down, as this is going to be a great resource for you on your homework as well as studying for the test. All right, so we're working with undoing multiplication. Now, as you notice, they're fractions, so we're going to work through those. So let's draw our line. I am subtracting 3. What is the opposite of subtracting? If you thought or said addition, then you were correct. So we're going to add 3. So x divided by 3 equals 2 plus 3 is 5. Now, when you see this in a fraction form, it's saying x divided by 3. So the opposite of division, the inverse of division, is multiplication. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 3. And what happens is I'm left with x, because that's your goal, and 5 times 3 is 15. Again, what do mathematicians do? Yep, they go back and they check their work. So where I see x, I'm going to replace it with 15. So 15 divided by 3 minus 3. Well, 15 divided by 3 is 5, and 5 minus 3 is 2. Does that match what our original number was? Sure does. So we got it right. So on this one, very similar stuff, only a little bit different. So I start off, I'm adding 4. So I am going to take away 4, and I'm left with 1/5 of x equals 6 take away 4 is 2. Now, yesterday in our one step, we did something like this where we had 1/5. So I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal, which means I flip the fraction. So 5 over 1. I multiply this by 5 over 1. So the 5's and the 1's cancel. And again, our goal is to get x by itself, get it isolated. And then 2 times 5 is 10. 10 divided by 1 is still 10. So x equals 10. And I'm sure you're tired of this, but here we go. We are going to do what? Oh, yep, check our work. So here's x. So we're going to take 1/5 of 10 plus 4. Well, 1/5 of 10 is the same as saying 10 divided by 5, which is 2. And 2 plus, we still have that 4 piece, is what? 6. And does that match our original? Sure does. And again, you guys got it right. So hopefully the 2-step is making more sense to you. I know that the 1-step was a little bit tricky yesterday, but hopefully this is making a little bit more sense. Again, if you need to pause, write stuff down, catch up, go for it. If not, here we go. Now, we're going to be working with some negatives and some fractions.